Have you ever jolted awake at 3 a.m., sensing a liquid burn seeping from the depths of your chest? It's not a physical ailment, but a tearing of the soul, the shell of your former self crumbling like parched clay after glimpsing a vaster world, while the new skin of becoming remains raw and unformed. You try meditation, therapy, or alcohol to numb the nerves, yet in the silence, you hear the crackling of bones growing, each synaptic reorganization accompanied by convulsions of ancient memories. What social media glorifies as transformative pain feels more like being fed into a shredder, your very psyche screaming as it's pulverized and remade. Your once sturdy values crack like porcelain masks, and you stand trembling, cradling the embryonic new self with the terror of a Neolithic human confronting a nuclear reactor, a terror that's not just the prelude to growth, but proof of true awakening. Where does this existential tension originate? Our cells seem encoded with paradoxical DNA from birth. Neuroscience reveals that every new cognitive pattern in the prefrontal cortex triggers panic signals from the limbic system's survival protocols, evolution's cruel joke equating change with mortal threat. Jung's final manuscripts unveil a darker truth. Within each of us dwell tens of thousands of quantum state selves, hanging like unchosen fruits that forever haunt our branches. The truths you swore by at 20 become jokes at 30, the heartbreak that shattered you at midnight fades to mist by decade's end. This fluidity of being should be our natural state, yet modernity pathologizes it as dysfunction. Worse, our psychological immune systems betray us. Breakthroughs turn former defenses into instruments of torture, like adolescent bones outgrowing their own musculature. Such existential growing pains defy all aphorisms, they're the tax paid for human metamorphosis. Those who numb these sensations are courting spiritual dwarfism. Comfort zones, deceptively safe, act like plastic wrap over fermenting wounds, unintegrated shadows fester into cysts of envy, unexamined fears metastasize into destructive compulsions. Existential therapists' records reveal that many depressed patients aren't lacking joy, but are trapped in performances of pseudo-maturity. They mutilate their souls to fit societal clocks, ironing psychic wrinkles into influencer-approved life hacks, while clinging to infantile dependencies. Such fractures inevitably detonate larger tremors, midlife existential voids, vertigo atop success, emotional spasms in intimacy, all invoices from neglected rites of passage. True alchemy begins with the courage to endure disintegration. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence here finds new radiance. Imagine reliving your current agony infinitely. Could you distill divinity from its bitterness? Studies show that when we consciously enter growth pain instead of fleeing, amygdala alerts transmute into dopamine-fueled creativity. 3 beacons guide the way. First, rituals of active dissolution, periodic farewells to former selves, like snakes shedding outgrown skins. Second, transcendent trauma work, returning to primal wounds with new consciousness, planting fresh seeds in scar tissue. Finally, the shadow integration dance, when light and dark selves embrace on psyche's stage, triggering soul-level nuclear fusion. These practices convert tearing sensations into vectors of evolution, much like climbers transmute cliff friction into ascent. The final revelation is etched in every fractured bone. Life's grandeur lies in its irreparable brokenness. Those moments of rupture between dimensional selves are tickets to the divine theater. When Moscow psychologists found Gulag prisoners erupting with creativity, when Zen masters saw perfection in raked gravel's asymmetry, they brushed the universe's source code, eternal rebirth springing from violent dissolution. The tremor in your fingers tracing these words, the ache in pre-dawn alveoli, the searing as neurons' cosmic rays, these are God's conspiracy with your becoming. Fear not the moments that shatter you, fear a life intact through lies. True growth is always scar tissue turned sacred art, the arrogance to rebuild after 10,000 fragmentations, the headlong leap into existence's heart, as supernovae teach, only in explosion do elements earn their starhood.